Hello everybody and welcome back to Nathan Adams Cars. Today we're going to talk about the 2019 and the 2020 Honda CR-V. We're going to talk about what you should do with your experience when it comes to buying one from the dealership as a new car. Because as a former car salesman, I sold a lot of different types of cars, new and used, and when it comes to buying new, or any car for that matter, what I found to be the most important thing a customer can do is to do their research. So today we're going to do the research on the new Honda CR-V, and we're going to break this research up into 3 different parts. First, we're going to take a look at some of the reviews, just to see what the CR-V does well, maybe what it does not do well. Then we're going to look at a few of the different sources when it comes to the deals that you can get on this car. And then finally after that, we're going to talk about the finances and how you're planning on purchasing the car. So let's get started with the review section. I found this review for US News Cars section, and they named this CR-V, the 2020, as #1 in compact SUVs. What I like about this review, just at first, this is not one of the ratings that we're going to get an average from, but what I like about this one, it shows you some of the new things for the 2020 model, such as the Honda Sensing is now a standard feature, and 184 horsepower engine was discontinued. That's the 2.4 naturally aspirated engine has been discontinued for the 2020 model, and there's a bit of an exterior styling tweak for 2020. Alright, for this review section, we're going to take a look at 3 different sources of reviews that give this car a rating. Okay, so the Edmunds review, I'm taking a look at right here on my phone. They got 8.1 out of 10, so I'm giving that 81% from Edmunds. They really rate this very well, and they mention some things like the pros and cons. Quick acceleration, roomy interior, comfortable ride, storage areas which are thoughtful and plentiful, but the touchscreen can be a bit finicky. Alright, so the next review I'm looking at right here is the car and driver review, and it gets a 5 out of 5, which is going to be 100%. So I know this is not the most precise rating, but it converts to 100%. So they rate this very well, 5 out of 5. The verdict from car and driver is that buyers looking for a refined, capable, and practical small SUV will not be disappointed by the CR-V. I feel like that doesn't say very much at all. That's a very anticlimactic verdict if you ask me. So yeah, it's fine. Can't go wrong. Won't be disappointed, I guess. It's not terrible. That doesn't sound overwhelmingly positive to me, but they gave it a 5 out of 5. Alright, so the JD Power rating is based on the 2019, and they did not rate the 2020 yet, so that's just something to keep in mind. The 2020 does change the engine, so that's going to make it where you don't have an option for a naturally aspirated engine anymore, I believe. So perhaps they will need to test that engine a little more. I'm not 100% if that's how it works with JD Power, but I would keep that in mind. We know that there is no longer the 2.4 naturally aspirated engine in the 2020 model, so in the 2019 you have a different engine, which makes a big difference when it comes to long-term reliability and performance over the years. But this car gets an 81% rating from JD Power, and one of the best marks, again, is for this car is resale value. So that really helps a lot because you're buying a depreciating asset, and this car does an excellent job at retaining its value. Alright, so the average expert rating came out to 87.3% when looking at these 3 sources. Now, I also went to the Honda website, I looked up the lineup. I'm doing the same type of research for each car that I'm doing in this series, and for the RAV4 they had 7 trim options, including the hybrid trim. With the CR-V lineup, I only saw 4 different trim options. And they also don't have as many packages in between those. Pretty much the option you get, if you get an LX or an EX or whatever, you don't really have packages to add to that to supplement them, to make them kind of adding a various degree in between. You either pick the base, the middle, or the higher middle, you get 4 different options, that's it. Now the hybrid is coming out in 2020. That car I have not seen available for sale yet, so I would say that's a different trim level. I'm not sure how they're gonna market it. When you're looking at the price of this car, the MSRP, a lot of times when it's listed on the commercials and on the website, the Honda website, it is going to be excluding the destination charge. That's not just Honda, that's a lot of companies out there. That's just how they do it. But just keep in mind that there is a $1,095 destination charge not included in those base MSRP prices that you see sometimes. Also, all-wheel drive is a $1,500 option for all these trims if you'd like to go for the all-wheel drive system. Generally, what I found when I was looking at all the research was that the CR-V has excellent reviews when it comes to the driving capability of it, just the feel of the drive, as well as very clever, sophisticated storage solutions where it's just very practical inside. The design has gotten a lot of high regard for that. A common theme when it comes to cons and just bad things with this car is a somewhat outdated infotainment system. So that is something to consider if you're looking at the new RAV4 as well, or other competitors like that. So in my experience, Honda depends on their customer loyalty and the fact that they are known as an engineering company. You know, Honda seems to always try to come out with something innovative and just show that they're all focused on engineering, which is a great thing. I think they like to let the product speak for themselves, and when the product is selling well, they don't incentivize it. You know, I think instead their strategy is to kind of put the cars out there in the market, let the dealerships decide how they're going to break down and get rid of that inventory, you know, because there's not really many incentives that we can see for the customers. There's not any rebates or anything like that. It makes a lot of sense, if you ask me, to do it that way, because the car is selling very well as it is, and they can offer something small to kind of get attention and kind of make a difference with the quotes that you're going to get from a dealer, and that is offering just this $500 conquest or loyalty cash. The $500 cash is one that you have to qualify for, so you have to have a 2009 or newer competing brand that Honda is going to be willing to give you the $500 incentive from the national Honda, not from the dealership, but from the brand overall. They're going to actually incentivize you nationally, and they can advertise with their quotes minus $500 if you have a 2009 or newer of the competing brand. It also works for if you have a 2009 or newer Honda, because that is the loyalty part. So with that incentive in mind, and the fact that there are a lot of 2019s still out for sale, when you compare this to the RAV4, there's actually a lot more 2020s on the lots. Well, now with Honda, it seems like they're releasing their model year a little bit later into the year. So there's a lot of 2019s left, and you're going to get a deal based on there being overstocked units, maybe some colors people don't like, because as I mentioned, they have fewer trim options for these cars. So it's possible that they have like 15 of the LXs that people didn't want. Half of them are red, you know, and then a lot of other colors. Go for the red one, of which there are many, and take advantage of this incentive, and you can get a pretty good deal. When comparing the incentives for this car to some of the competitors, so far I've only done one video on the RAV4 as the competitor for this car. That one has a lot more rebates and incentives and things like that, from what I could tell. On this one, it seems like the price is lower to begin with, and they only give you that one incentive, which is a conditional incentive. And there is a financing rate special. I think it's 1.9 for up to 36, 2.9 for up to 60 months, and 3.9 for up to 72 months. So you could consider that as an incentive. Because it is a special rate you may not be able to get at your own bank, you could also consider that just another incentive. And you would see these incentives, by the way, by looking at Edmunds.com. They list all the incentives there as a third-party source, so it's very direct and easy. Look at all the different cars, all the different incentives that you want to find out about. They're going to be on Edmunds.com incentives page. You, of course, will get the most up-to-date information from the manufacturer themselves, so you can find the national website for them, see what they're offering. Just keep in mind that these are national offers from the manufacturer, which is separate from the dealer. The dealer can make their own deals and promotions however they see fit. They can utilize some of these and kind of leverage them for their own use in a unique way if they want. So for that reason, it's important that you know what's being offered from the national manufacturer as a whole. All right, for the deal section, now that you kind of got an idea of the incentives that are being offered in this car, not much, right? So if you got an idea of that, I like to find some deals that are from these deal websites. There's 3 sources here you can check out to see kind of what deals might be available for the CR-V before you go into the dealership. So we're going to start with Kelley Blue Book and see what they offer. I just made an important mistake that I want to point out. I said we're going to check out Kelley Blue Book and see what they're offering, but Kelley Blue Book doesn't offer anything except for information that they're estimating, and it's not really something that you can't buy a car from them, you know, so it's not really great to rely on these numbers. That's why I'm looking at 3 different sources. It's really a guide, but having 3 different sources is a good guide, and also it helps you to negotiate and say, hey, look, I checked out these 3 different sources and they're all showing me numbers in this area, so it's really good to base it on that, but not to expect those numbers. Because if you look at the Kelley Blue Book range at the very bottom of the range, it shows the $22,050. And now I would say for that, in my experience, the lowest end of the range is reserved for cars that there might be too many of them. You know, they have a lot of them in stock. Again, I already told you this, just the unpopular colors, things like that. Maybe even a demo car with a couple hundred miles on it could still be listed as new, and you could purchase it for a deal like that. So I wouldn't 100% rely on that, but it's a good guide, and that is from Kelley Blue Book. Alright, so source number 2 I went to was Edmunds.com. I got their true market value, which came out to $22,537, I think. And that was from Edmunds. So there's another source that's looking pretty close to the first one. For the last source, for the pricing, we went to TrueCar.com, and I got a price of $22,508. So Edmunds and TrueCar are pretty much identical in price, whereas Kelley Blue Book was like $500 cheaper. So it's interesting to show a variability in that. Now I got the average, which came out to $22,365. So I would say if you get anything below $23,000, you're having an excellent deal right there. Don't rely on that. Again, it really depends on the market and the inventory and all these different things. All right, moving on to finances. Okay, so now we're looking at these deals and incentives and all this stuff. Incentives are going to be offered across the board on the vehicle. You got to check all the fine print and all that stuff, of course. But for the pricing and everything, I was looking at the most basic model in front-wheel drive, the LX CRV in front-wheel drive, because I'm trying to do a comparison to keeping these cars that I'm comparing it to all apples to apples. Of course, when you go up to different options and things like that, it's going to be a little different. The same idea applies. You just go ahead and look at the research on that specific car, make sure you're including the options that you want, because you're going to have to pay for those, but you can get a deal as long as you do your research. Okay, so you found out about the incentives that are being offered, and also kind of what type of car you might want, you know, so you have a good idea of what you're looking for. Now imagine that you go forward with the car that you're thinking, the exact package, the price, and all that stuff, add the taxes and fees. You can do that pretty easily just with a calculator. You can plug these numbers in, the total amount of the cost with taxes, fees, the potential discounts, that type of thing, run it through auto loan payment calculator. All the links for all these websites I'm referencing here are going to be in the description below, so you can check that out. There is an auto loan calculator there, and we're going to plug in some of the numbers based on this average deal around $22,500, you know. This is assuming you don't put any cash down, and there is a special interest rate for up to 60 months of 2.9%, which brings your payments to $436. That is an estimate if you live in Virginia, and it's based on research that I did. So of course, the real numbers are going to be based on what's available when you get to the dealership and what you're able to negotiate. Just keep an open mind, but use this as a basis. Honda also has a special for up to 72 months of 3.9%, and if you do the same loan for the same basic car with a great deal, the payment would be around $380. So I would say you could expect for the typical CRV loan, because it's around $30,000, $25,000, $30,000, you could expect it to be in the $500 range. I'm being very general with these numbers because I'm trying to give you an idea of what to expect. Of course, you can fine-tune it to your own circumstances as you like. Alright, so there you have it. You've done all the research you need to do for your new car buying experience. You should be very prepared now, and I hope this has been helpful to you. I would say if you're looking at a 2020 or 2019 CRV, just be aware that they did change the engines that are available, because you no longer have that 2.4 naturally aspirated engine. All the 2020s are now turbocharged 1.5 liter engines, which means they took out like 900 cc's. That's like a motorcycle, you know, like a big one. They took that out of the engine. So it's like a lot of displacement, I think, to be taken out of a car and then turbocharging it. I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest. I would prefer the 2.4 probably, but it's cool to have a turbo car because of the increased torque and performance. So, you know, I think it is a better performing engine overall, which is why they chose it. So I'll trust Honda on that. I'll let the experts do it. But I think it's a great car. I think it speaks for itself because it's one of the best-selling SUVs out there for this segment, and I think you can't go wrong. So thank you for watching. I hope this has been helpful. If you like it, please subscribe. Check out some more of my videos and stuff like that. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.